Hey there, Heather, hello there, it's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to the 2006 Stone Cold Hockey Tourney. As you see, all 30 teams are involved. There are 14 matchups. Look at the bracket. You see there are 14 matchups, meaning 2 teams out of 30 do not have to go through the preliminary round. Calgary, I know, is one of them because I look at Calgary. I went through the Canadian teams and Calgary is not there. So yeah, so the first game is Phoenix Montreal, and Montreal Purdue 5-2 as Abisher lost to Cujo, who played for the Coyotes. Coyotes scored the first 5 goals. Mike Comrie, Palmara, Mike Comrie again, Sibirek, Mihalik, and Shane Doan. Montreal got Glenn Murray and Richard Sednick scoring goals. Or is that Garth Murray? Sorry, I like to keep things on. That was Garth Murray. Yeah, Glenn Murray, I think, plays for the Bruins. Carolina, Chicago. Game 1 saw Carolina win 5-1 as Marty Gerber baby beat Hubby Boolin. Carolina, well, Chicago got goal by Rene Bourque. Not Ray Bourque, Rene Bourque. Eric Stahl with a hat trick. With Matt Cullen with 2 goals. So 2 guys, 1 goal. Kings and Sharks. Game 1 saw the Kings win per la Gachillon. Matthew Garon beats Nabotkov. San Jose was up 2-0 and 2 goals by Ekman, but then LA scored Sean Avery, Joe Corville, and Alex Forloff in the 3rd period. Sharks had Ekman with a hat trick, but it wasn't enough as in overtime Roenick at 2:33 from Craig Conroy. Devils and Flyers. Game 1 saw the Flyers lose to the Devils 5-2 as Marty Bridger beat Ninimaki. Devils were up 4-0. Gianta, Parise, Madden, and McGillney scoring goals, and then Patrick Elias later on. Philly goes by Darren Hatcher and Mike Canubo. Ottawa, Minnesota. Ottawa wins game 1 for Minnesota. Mike Morrison beats Manny Fernandez. Ottawa goes by Danny Alfredson, Patrick Eves, Danny Alfredson again, and Danny Heatley. Minnesota goes by Stefan Veilleux, Pierre-Marc Bouchard, and Daniel Turnquist. Buffalo, Nashville. Game 1 sees Buffalo win on Parcashion 2-1. Ryan Miller beats Fukun. Hartnell scored from Team Urat. Fanek tied it from Gallstad and Lindman, but in overtime at 13-13. Danny Briere from Brian Campbell and Jochen. Florida plays Dallas. Dallas wins 2-1. Turco beats Luongo. 2 good goalies. Euro Kalik for Florida from Stumple. Mike Modano from Zubov and Arnott, but in overtime at 7:30. Third period. Philippe Boucher from Mike Modano and Yossi Yukinen. Boston Ducks. And Boston beats the Ducks 3-2 as Thomas beats Shiger. Anaheim goes by Scott Niedermeyer and Todd Marchand. Boston goes by Brad Boyes, Glenn Murray, this time, and Dave Scatchard. Vancouver, Toronto, my Leafs win in overtime 4-3 as JSO Band beats Alex Old. Big win over Vancouver. Nolan Baumgartner, Matt Cook, and Yarko Rutu. 3 guys who aren't in my kitchen. Scoring for the Canucks in regulation. Matt Stajan, Alex Ponkrosky, and Jeff O'Neill. Yeah, he was a Leaf. Overtime, Chad Kilger, of all people, from Caberlet. But the Leafs win. St. Louis, Edmonton. Game 1 saw the Oil Drops win 5-2 as Ty Conklin beats Patty Lalime. Edmonton goes by Rafi Torres, Steve Stales, Jarrett Stahl, Fernando Pisani, and Alex Hemsky. Keith Kachuk and Scott Young for the Blues. Tampa and the Islanders. Game 1 saw Tampa win as John Graham beats Dubowitz, the Polish Prince. Only other goal was by Jason Blake, future Leaf. Freddie Modine with 2 goals, former Leaf, and Marty St. Louis for Tampa Bay. Washington crushes Atlanta 5-1. Kolzig beats Shields. A lot of people say, did Ovechkin score a goal? No, he didn't. Atlanta got a goal by Colby. But Mike Grebe, Brian Southerby, Brian Wilsey, Matt Penninger, and Brooks Lake scored for Washington. Detroit Rangers. I think Pittsburgh. No, Pittsburgh's up there, sorry. Detroit beats the Rangers in overtime in game 1. Legacy beats Lundqvist. Bad luck. Detroit goals in regulation by Nick Lidstrom, Matt Schneider, and Jason Williams. Ranger goals by Yammer Yager, Thomas Pog, and Steve Ruchin. Overtime at 17:42, the man from Cambridge, Kurt Maltby, from Nick Lidstrom and Chris Draper. And finally, Pittsburgh, Crosby loses as Colorado wins 3-2 as Peter Budaj beats Marc-Andre Fleury. Colorado goes by Brad Clark, Mark Santos, and Pierre Turgeon. Yeah, he played for the Habs. Pittsburgh goes by Colby Armstrong and Ryan Malone. Game 2, Carolina, Chicago. Chicago wins, forces a game 3. It is best of 3, remember. Craig Anderson beating Martin Gerber. Chicago goes by Curtis Brown, Martin Lapointe. Martin Lapointe with 2, and Ranford Berta. Carolina goes by Rod Brindamore and Craig Adams. Los Angeles wins 6-2. And they take down San Jose. Vodkov loses to Guerin. Frolov, Conroy, Dimitra, Vishnovsky, Camilleri, and Sean Avery scoring goals for the Kings. Steve Bernier and Milan Mahalik for the Sharks. Flyers win 5-1. They force a game 3 against Berger and the Devil Dogs. Devils scored. Rafalski. RJ Umberger with 2 goals. Simon Gagne with 2 goals. And Mike Knuble scoring. Ottawa, Minnesota. Ottawa beats Minnesota. They're going to the Sweet 16. Hasek. Yeah, we got to remember he was in there for Ottawa. He beat Manny Fernandez. Goals by Patrick Eves, Danny Alfredson, Jason Spezza, and then Alfredson again. Man, he's looking good. Gaborik and Wanvik from Minnesota. Buffalo, Nashville. So Nashville won 5-3 to force at game 3. Foucault beats Miller. Upshaw, Hordichuk, Fiddler, Hartnell, and Selicki with the goals for Nashville. Buffalo goes by Golstad, Connolly, and then Tim Connolly again. Dallas, Florida. Florida wins in overtime, forces game 3. Luongo beat Hedberg. Dallas goes by Jussi Jokinen with 1 and Jason Arner with 2. Jokinen scored 2. Ole Jokinen scored 2 in regulation, and then Lucas Krajicek tied it. Overtime, 12-4. Jokinen completed his hat trick from Stephen Weiss. The Ducks shock Boston 5-0 in game 2 as Raycroft gets beaten by Briskalov. Briskalov, baby. Anaheim, Timu with 2 goals. Fedoruk, McDonald, and Lupo with the goals for the Ducks. Leafs, did they sweep Vancouver? No. Vancouver went to Toronto and beat them. All to beat Belfort. Yeah, Belfort was on that team. Toronto goes by Nick Androff and Dusty Tucker. Todd Bertuzzi, Brendan Morrison, Marcus Naslin, Anson Carter, and Richard Park for the Canuckles. St. Louis, Edmonton. Edmonton wins 6-3. They sweep the Blues and will move on. Markkinen beats Bakashwal, the battle of the long named goalies. St. Louis goes by Jay McClement, Jamal Myers, and Scott Young. Edmonton goes by Jared Stahl again, Ryan Smith, Yarrow Spacek, Sergei Samsonov, and then Stahl again for the hat trick. Tampa Bay, did they sweep? No, they didn't. The Islanders win 7-2. Rick DiPietro in net against John Graham, and the Cupcakes win. Tampa goes by Pavel Kabina and Ryan Craig. Islander goes by Sean Bass, Trent Hunter, Jason Blake, Trent Hunter again, Alex Yashin, and Sean Bates. 3 Islanders had multiple goals. Next up, we have Atlanta with a shutout. As Garnett. What is his name? Michael Garnett, I guess that's his goal's name. Beat Brett Johnson. Patrick Stefan with a goal. Good thing he shot it in the net. Mark Savardin. Ilya Kovalchuk. I don't know why I had to pause for that one. Rangers are out. Detroit beat them in overtime again. Oscar B. Lundqvist. Detroit goes by Chris Draper, Nick Lidstrom, Thomas Holmstrom, Matt Schneider, and Patrick Datsuk in regulation. Rangers for Bear Betts, Martin Straka, Peter Sikora, Yager, and Jarko Imonen. But in overtime, Lidstrom from Williams, his 3rd of the playoffs, 2nd of the game. Pittsburgh, Colorado sees Colorado sweep Crosby out, 6-2. Theodore beats Tebow. Pittsburgh goals by Leclerc and Crosby. Well, Crosby at least scored a goal. Colorado goes Brett McLean, Pierre Turgeon, Brett Clark, Ian LePerriere, Maris Vatos, and Alex Tengay. Montreal will be eliminated. They got swept by the Coyotes, so they beat Asperger. Phoenix wins. Mike Comrie with 2. Kavasha, Mara, and Saprikin with the other ones. Montreal had 3 goals by Chris Higgins. Well, Higgins had 2 and Jan Bullis. So we've had some sweeps and we have none. Philly, New Jersey, game 3 saw the Flyers. Here's the Flyers beat the Devils. Ninamaki beats Brodeur. Double goals by Giunta and Lukovic. Flyer goals by Jeff Carter, Mike Knuble, Mike Richards, Kitchener. Finally got to say Kitchener. And Samuel Gagne. Buffalo, Nashville. It ends up being Buffalo. Moving on. Miller beats Foucault. Kodalik with 2 goals. Chris Drury and Brian Campbell the other ones. Scotty Hartnell for Nashville. Dallas, Florida. It will be Dallas who will move on. Turco beats Lumongo. As Lepton, Boucher, John Clem, Arnott, and Stu Barnes scoring for Dallas. Florida goes by Joe Kayakowski, Stephen Weiss, and Gregory Campbell. Kitchener. Boston and the Ducks. It will be Boston who will move on. Thomas beats Shiger. Boston goes by Patrice Bergeron, Glenn Murray, David Tanabe, and Marco Sturm. Anaheim goes by Senna and Konopka, Joffrey Lupul, and Timo Solani. Toronto, do they move on? The answer is yes, they do. They win 5-3 over the Canucks. JSO Ben does it again. Jeff O'Neill, Matt Stajan, Brian McCabe, Jason Allison, and Alex Steen for their leaves. Canucks, Hendrik Sedin, Matt Teozolan, and Hendrick. Tampa Islanders, it will be the Islanders moving on. Big upset. DiPietro beats Graham. Satan, Trent Hunter, Aaron Asham. Satan with 2 goals, and Trent Hunter with 2 goals. Tampa goes by Dan Boyle, Martin St. Louis, and Pavel Kulida. Washington, Atlanta, game 3 says Washington with a shutout. So they reverse shutout Atlanta. Steve Shields loses to Brett Johnson. Pettinger, Ovi, 2 goals, and Clymer with the other ones. And the last game is Chicago, who beat Carolina 4-3, big win. Hobby Bulin beats Ward. Chicago goes by Michael Holmquist, Radim Verbata, and then 2 goals by Randy Borg. Justin Williams had a hat trick in the 3rd period, but it was not enough as Chicago wins. So that's all. Sweet 16 time. How many Canadian teams do we have? We have Toronto, we have Ottawa, we have Calgary, and we have Edmonton. We have 4. So no battle of Canadian teams. So it's Philly, Dallas, Edmonton, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Columbus. Yeah, Columbus qualified. Boston, Calgary, Chicago, Toronto, Detroit, Buffalo, Washington, Ottawa, and Colorado Islanders. All right, so Philly, Dallas, game 1 sees Dallas on La Prolongation. Turco beats Esch. Dallas goes in regulation by Brandon Morrow, Anthony Meetonen, Yuri Lepton, and Nico Kapanen. They're up 4-1. Mike Knuble, Simon Gagne, Bronco, Radulate, and Mike Knuble scoring as the Flyers came back. But in overtime, Yuri Lepton in his 3rd from Rubida. Second quarter final, Edmonton, LA, and Edmonton wins 4-2 on home turf. Markkinen beats Matthew Garon. Yeah, LA plays San Jose. Edmonton goes by Pisani, Hemsky, Stales, and Mike Pekka even. Joe Corville and scored twice for the Kings. Phoenix, Columbus starts off with Phoenix on Prolongation. Sauve beats Pascal Leclerc. Serves you right for skipping out Columbus. Ballastic scored from Platt and Westcott. Paul Mara scored from Comrie and Morris in the 2nd period, and in overtime at 7:49 after Herdina was off for slashing, Mike Johnson from Slava Nagy and Keith Ballard. Boston, Calgary, game 1. Saw Calgary in overtime take care of Boston as Kipper took down Toivonen. Boston was up 2-0 on goals by Milan Trezina and P.J. Ackelson. Calgary goes by Damien Lenko and Jerome McGinley, but in overtime, Reasoner got the 5 minutes for slashing. So he was gone, and Aginla scored from Lombardi. Toronto, how did they do against Chicago? Game 1, they lose 5-4 as Hobby Bulin beats Aubin. Leaf goals by Ponkarowski, McCabe, Sundin, and Wellwood. Chicago goals by Calder, Mark Bell, Kyle Calder, Rene Bork, and Radim Verbata. Detroit Buffalo. Detroit wins 5-4 as Osgood took care of Miller. Detroit goes by Sederberg, Yzerman, Holmstrom, Mark Mowers, and Matthew Schneider. Buffalo goes by Kitcheners, Derek Roy, Jason Pominville, Chris Drury, and Jürgen Hecht. Washington, Ottawa, game 1, and Ottawa won in Washington 6-5. Emery beats Kolzik. Washington looked decent. Jeff Halpern, Mark Panager, Matt Bradley, no, not Shane Todd, Jeff Halpern, and Ben Clymer with the goals for Washington. Ottawa goes by Peter Schaefer, Danny Healy, Patrick Eves, and Wade Redden. Colorado Islanders to end the first games of the best of 5. Islanders in overtime. DiPietro beat Theodore. Colorado scored. High note from Hayduk and Henge Bergenheim for the Islanders from Hamilton. And in overtime at 2:24, Satan, his third from Bates. Edmonton LA game 2 sees Edmonton win, so now they're 1 win away. Dwayne Rollison beats Matthew Garon. Ryan Smith, Igor Ulanov, and Radim Dvorak scoring for the Oilers. Pavel Dimitrov for the Kings. Game 2, Phoenix Columbus saw Phoenix win, and now they're 1 win away. Sauve beats Denny, as Sergei Fedorov scored for Columbus, but Phoenix with 4 straight. Steven Reinpracht, Paul Mara, Mike Ricci, and Mike Comrie. Boston Calgary, game 2 saw Boston win, and they'll split the first 2 games. Toivonen, the hero against Kipper. Lankow and Nagila scored for Calgary, but Tanabe, Patrick Bergeron, Sturm, and Travis Green, not Ted Green, scoring for Boston. Toronto will go home with a 1-1 split against Chicago. Belfort beats Craig Anderson. Toronto goes by Jeff O'Neill, Alex Steen, Nick Anderhoff, and then 2 from Sundin. Calder and Bell for Chicago. Buffalo beats Detroit, so they'll split. Marty Biron, the hero against Osgood. Buffalo goes by Jason Pominville, Brian Campbell, and Chris Drury. Detroit goes by Robert Lang, both of them. Washington, Ottawa. Ottawa wins, and now they're up 2-0 going home. Emery beats Kolzik. Spezza, Schaefer, Haflat, and Heatley are your heroes. Well, Emery too. You got the shutout. Colorado wins, so they'll split with the Islanders. Budai beats Snow. Islander goes by Trent Hunter and Shitnick. Colorado goes by Brett Clark, Rob Blake, Merrick Savatos, and Alex Tenge. And in game 2, Dallas wins 5-2. They're 1 win away. Turco beats Esch. Dallas goes by Tarnquist, Robida, Morrow, Lepton, and Mietinen. Philly goes by Honsus and Umberger. So we have 4 potential sweeps. The first potential sweep, Phoenix Columbus, and it's a sweep. Phoenix moves on to the quarterfinals. Cujo, and now he gets Pascal Leclerc. Well, Phoenix took down Montreal. Now they take down Columbus, who had the period off, but Phoenix wins. Columbus goes by Sherdev, Westcott, and Doobie Westcott with 2 goals. Phoenix goes by Jeff Sanderson, the hat trick from the man from the Northwest Territories, and then Paul Mara, his 5th from Derek Morris and Kabasha. Mara's a defenseman, you know. Boston, Calgary, it will be Calgary who crushes Boston like a grape. As that can't be Brian Boucher for Calgary. He played for the Flames? Boucher beats Raycroft. Boston only got 1 goal, Patrick Bergeron, but Steven Yao, Czech Kobasu, Dave Mulenko, Jerome McGilla, Marcus Nielsen, and Craig McDonald with the goals. I gotta find out who the goalies are. It is Brian Boucher. Brian Boucher played for the Flames? Reals? Anyway, Toronto against Chicago, and Toronto on home ice wins 5-2. Belfort beats Hobby Boulin. Carbolet, Tucker, Steen, Sundin, and Steen again for the Leafs. Blackhawk goals by Kyle Calder and Mark Bell. I think they've scored in every game, Calder and Bell. Anyway, Detroit Buffalo. It will be Detroit winning in Buffalo 5-4 as Jimmy Howard beats Ryan Miller. Detroit goals by Matt Schneider, Pavel Datsyuk, Matt Schneider, Mikko Samuelsson, and Steve Yzerman. Buffalo goals by Brian Campbell, Danny Briere again, and Chris Drury. Ottawa will sweep Washington 5-0. Back-to-back shutouts by Emery. Ovechkin was nothing. So Ottawa's in the quarterfinals. Heatley, Schaefer, Massaros, Eves, and Chris Kelly. Colorado and the Islanders, it will be Colorado who will take that 2-1 lead. Budai beats Dubowitz. Colorado goes by Tanguay, Spatos, McLean, and Sakic. Finally scoring a goal. Blake and Hunter for the Cupcakes. And Dallas sweeps Philadelphia. They're in the quarterfinals. Turco beats Ninomaki. Philly was up 2-0. Brian Savage and Simon Gagne with goals. But Dallas scored Junior Lassard, Yuzi Yokita, and Yuri Levinen, the Triple J's. And finally, we have Edmonton with the sweep of the Kings. They're in the quarterfinals. Rolison beats Gannon. Everton goes by Pekka and Smith in regulation. Eric Belanger, Fishnovsky tied 2-2 overtime power play because Tim Gleason was in the box. Jared Stahl, his fifth from Torres and Ulanov. So we have had 4 sweeps. Calgary, can they move on? The answer is yes, they can. 3-1. That's the wrong one. Sorry about that. As Kipper beats Tim Thomas, so Calgary's in the quarters. Iginla has 6, and then Travis Green for Boston. So Canada looking pretty impressive. Edmonton, Calgary, and Ottawa. If Toronto can win Game 4, then it's half the quarterfinals will be Canadian teams. And it will be. Toronto wins 5-2. Oban beats Peter Monroe. No, it's Adam Monroe. Excuse me. I don't think Peter. Chicago goes by LaPointe and Matt Cullen. By the Leafs, Jason Allison, Matt Sundin, Alex Steen, Sundin again, and then Jason Allison for the empty netter. And the Leafs are in the quarterfinals. Unbelievable. Detroit's now in the quarterfinals with the overtime heroics against Buffalo. Legacy beats Ryan Miller. Detroit goes in regulation. Kirk Maltby, Mark Mowers, Pavel Datsyuk with 2. Buffalo goes J.P. Dumont, Harry Callender, Danny Brier, and Alex Kolek. But in overtime, thanks to a Roy Fitzpatrick penalty, Johan Franzen, the mule, from Cronwall and Lidstrom. It could be done right now. And we will be. Colorado beats the Islanders, so no series goes to that 5th and deciding game. Jose Theodore beats Rick DiPietro. Colorado goes by Ian LaPerriere, J. M. Lyles again, and then Spatos. Islanders goes by Sean Bates and Miro Satan. So, quarterfinals are set. 1, 2, 3. It will be Toronto versus Detroit, original 6. Ottawa, Edmonton, so we have a Canadian team in the semis guaranteed. Dallas, Colorado, good matchup. And Phoenix, Calgary, that should be interesting. So, first quarterfinals, Toronto, Detroit, and Toronto wins 2-1. Belfort beats Legacy. Wow. Detroit scored first. Holstrom from Shanahan, but then Sundin from Allison, and then Darcy Tucker on the power play, thanks to Mark Mowers in the box. So the Leafs are up 1-0. Nice. Edmonton beats Ottawa in the first game of those matchups. Rolison beats Morrison. Ottawa was up 2-0. Blacklock, Ferrata, and Jason Spezza scored, but Edmonton came back. Sean Horkoff, Chris Pronger, and then late Mike Pekka. Dallas, Colorado. Dallas strikes first, 6-3. Turco beats Budai. Colorado goes by Milan Hajduk, Joe Sakic, and Spatos. Dallas goes by Yuri Levinen, Mike Modano, Philly Boucher, Anthony Meetonen, Jason Arna, and Brandon Morrow. Calgary beat Phoenix 3-2, so Calgary. So 3 Canadian teams looking decent. Well, it is best of 7, mind you. Calgary beats Phoenix. Kipper beats Cujo. Phoenix goes by Stephen Reinpracht. With both of them, Calgary goes by Dion Phaneuf, Andrew Ferentz, and Sean Donovan, all with their first of the playoffs. Game 2, Ottawa Edmonton leads us off, and Edmonton wins, so they're 2 up. Markkanen takes down Hasek. They're going home with a 2-0 lead. Chris Phillips for Ottawa, but Edmonton goes by Rafi Torres, Chris Pronger, Rafi Torres again, and Ryan Smith. Dallas, Colorado sees Dallas win 2-0 going into Colorado. Turco beats Budai. Wolski, the Polish Prince for Colorado. Dallas goes by Meetonen, both of them. Game 2 saw Calgary win, so now they're up 2-0 on Phoenix. Kipper beats Cujo. Calgary goes by Joel McGinley, Jamie Lundmark, and then Christian Huselius, the hero. Phoenix goes by Dennis Seidenberg and Boyd Devereaux. Kitchener. Long time since I said Kitchener. Usually it doesn't take too long before I say Kitchener. Autoplay for Detroit against Toronto, and no. Detroit will force a split. Legacy beats Talquist in overtime, mind you. Toronto goals in regulation. Chad Kilger and Nick Interpoff. Henrik Sedberg and Mark Mowers for Detroit, but in overtime, Sederberg got 318 from Schneider and Lidstrom. So anyway, Game 3 sees Colorado win on home turf in overtime. Theodore beats Turco, so that series is now 2-1. Dallas goes in regulation by John Clem, Mike Modeno, and Steve Ott. Colorado goes by Brett McLean, Ian LaPerriere, and J.M. Lyles. Colorado go in overtime by Carlos Skrakens, the man from Latvia, from Wolski, kind of from Poland, Pierre Turgeon. Euro Svoboda was in the box. Game 3 for Phoenix Calgary, and Calgary shutout by Kipper. Lombardi, Iginla, Hammerlick. Didn't really play for Calgary. And Iginla again. Make sure Calgary is 1 win away from the semifinals. Toronto will get crushed by Detroit 7-2. Legacy takes down Talquist. Toronto did score 2 goals in the first period, McCabe and Tucker, but not enough. Corey Cross. Wow, he played for the Bruins. Nick Lindstrom, Johan Franzen, Jason Williams. Not Justin Williams. Michael Samuelson, Matt Schneider, and Chris Draper are your goal scorers. And the last game 3, we see Ottawa beat Edmonton, so they've split that down. Emery beats Rolison. Ottawa goes by Ferrada, Heatley, and Chris Neal. Edmonton goes by Mark, Andre Bergeron, and Ryan Smith. So only Calgary has a chance for a sweep. Colorado wins 3-2. The home team has won every series game against Dallas. Turco beats Kolsnik. Dallas goes in regulation by Nico Kapanen and Jason Arnott. Colorado goes by Rob Blake with 2. Joe Sakic his third in overtime from Tangate and Clark. Does Calgary put up the sweep? The answer is yes, they do. It took overtime, but Kipper beats Cujo, and Calgary will be going to the semifinals. Huselius and Ferentz in regulation for Calgary. Ricci and Mara for Phoenix, but at 10:15 of overtime, Robin Ruggiero from Matt Lombardi and Jerome Iginla. Toronto will slip up again. So it looks like Detroit will send Toronto home. Belfort losing, that's good. No shame, Detroit was that good. Detroit goes by Samuelson, Franzen, Shanahan finally scoring a goal in the playoffs, and another one. Kyle Wellwood and Matt Sundin for the Leafs. And we have Ottawa winning on the road in Edmonton 5-3. Emery beats Rolison, so that series will go to at least a game 6. Edmonton goes by Chris Pronger, Ryan Smith, Alan Hemsky. Ottawa goes by Chara, Danny Heatley, Smolinski, Danny Alfredson, and Danny Alfredson again. So 3 game 5s. Let's start with the inevitable Toronto fuck up. No, they won in overtime, 3-2. Belfort beats Legacy. Toronto goes in regulation by Darcy Tucker and Nick Antropoff. Met both of them. Pavel Datsyuk has scored twice for the Red Wings. Jason Allison for the Leafs scored at 41 seconds of overtime from Sundin and Kilger. Edmonton, Ottawa, it's 2-2, and Ottawa will have the advantage. Emery beats Rolison. Spacek scored from Pronger and Stoll for Edmonton, but then Smolinski from Neal and Mike Fisher from Pothier and Danny Alfredson, 2-1. Dallas, Colorado, and it will be Dallas who wins 3-0 to take that lead. Turco with the shutout over Theodore. Kapanen, Barnes, Nico Kapanen with 2 goals. So, Dallas, Colorado. Does Dallas win on the road in Game 6? The answer is yes, they do. 5-2. So, Dallas is in the semis. Turco beats Brudai. Colorado goes by Laxton and Jim Dowd. They're first. But then Philippe Boucher, Yuri Lefkonen, Stepan Robada, Steve Ott, and Brandon Morrow. Toronto will lose in spades in Detroit 7-2. Man, wish they didn't play Detroit. But anyway, Toronto goes by Darcy Tucker and Jason Allison. But then Detroit goes Michael Samuelson, Matt Schneider, Don McLean, Corey Cross, Hedrick Sederberg, Johan Franzen, and Sederberg again. And Ottawa, Edmonton, is this it? The answer is no, this isn't it. Edmonton wins on home turf to go to Game 7. Emery beats Markkinen. No, Markkinen beats Emery, excuse me. Ottawa goes by Sedano Chara and Danny Heatley. Sean Horkoff, Jarrett Stahl, Mike Pekka, and Ryan Smith scoring for the Oil Drops. We have Game 7. So we know we already have 2 Canadian teams in the semifinals. Will Edmonton join their Alberta brethren in the semifinals, or will it be Ottawa? The answer is Edmonton in Game 7 in Ottawa. Markkinen, Mutashik. Chara did score for Ottawa, but Edmonton goes by Stales, Pronger, Torres, and Pisani. So semifinals, of course, they would pair Edmonton and Calgary up. So Detroit will face Dallas, Edmonton, Calgary. I know Detroit was favored to do well. Dallas, how did Dallas end? I think Colorado stunk Dallas. And Calgary lost the first round. Yeah, it's 4 Western Conference teams. I know Detroit lost in the first round. Dallas lost in the first round. Calgary, I think, lost in the first round, too. Yeah, they did. And Edmonton went to the Stanley Cup Finals. So Edmonton technically has the best advantage. Detroit might have a chance. We'll see. Detroit-Dallas, Game 1 saw Detroit win 5-2 as Legacy beats Turco. Dallas goals by Yuri Lehtinen and Trevor Daley. Detroit goes by Nick Lidstrom, Pavel Datsyuk, Thomas Holmstrom, Brendan Shanahan, Thomas Holmstrom. And finally, the other semifinal sees Calgary strike first, 3-2. Well, they've been rested more than Edmonton. Chipper beats Rolison. Calgary goes by Donovan, Langkow, Antonio Monti. Play for the Flames. Edmonton goes by Chris Pronger and Jarrett Stahl. Calgary-Edmonton leads off Game 2, and Edmonton wins the split the first 2. Markkanen beats Kiprusoff in overtime. Calgary goal by Huselius from Kovacic and McCarty. Radek Dvorak scored from Hemsky and Marc-Andre Bergeron. And in overtime, Ryan Smith has 8 from Morrow and Bergeron. What did I say Bergeron for? Game 2 in the other semifinal sees Detroit now take a 2-0 series lead as Osgood took care of Hedberg. Dallas goes by Stu Barnes and Mike Modano, but Detroit goes by Chris Draper. Lidstrom with 2, he's got 7 now, and Brett Lebda. Detroit-Dallas Game 3 sees Detroit take a 3-0 series lead. Osgood takes down Hedberg, so Detroit looks good. Dallas goes by Stepan Rubada, Nico Kapanen, and Mike Modano. Detroit goes by Chris Draper, Thomas Holmstrom. Holmstrom with a hat trick. Draper and Ferronson. Out of Alberta is Calgary striking with Kiprusoff another shutout against Rolison. Iginla, Huselius, Donovan, Langkow, and Amante with the goals. And now Game 4. Sees Calgary win. They're 1 win away. Overtime heroics. Kipper beats Markkanen. Calgary, Amante, Kovacic, and Iginla with the goals. Torres, Pisani, and Stahl, 3-3 overtime. Marcus Nielsen at 5-11 from Iginla and Huselius. So Calgary, so it looks like it's Calgary-Detroit, pretty much. Detroit sweeps Dallas 4-2. Legacy beats Hedberg. Man, they had troubles with the Leafs. They had no troubles with Dallas. Detroit 4 goals. Schneider, Samuelson, Lang, and Sederberg iced it. Zubov and Arnott scored late, but not enough. So Detroit with the sweep, and they will face off against Calgary. Not quite. Edmonton wins in overtime. Markkanen beats Kiprusoff. Edmonton goes to regulation. Ryan Smith, Rafi Torres, and then Ryan Smith is 10th. Craig McDonald, Damon Langkow, and Tony Amante with the goals for Calgary. Overtime, Rafi Torres is 7th from Horkoff and Hemsky. Game 6. There we go. Calgary wins 3-1 on home turf. Kipper beats Rolison. Huselius, Iginla. Iginla's got 13. And Torres. But because Edmonton were the Stanley Cup runners-up, and also they actually lasted longer than Dallas, Edmonton will take 3rd place in this one, the Stanley Cup finalists. So now it's down to Calgary and Detroit. Both teams, great promise, terrible first rounds in real life. So let's look at it. Dallas for Detroit. Legacy is 7-2. Osgood 5-1. Howard 1-0. So they're 13-3 overall. They had to take down the Rangers in the preliminary round 2 straight. They had no problems with Buffalo. Trying to give them a little bit of a pause, and then they swept Dallas. Point-wise, Datsuk's got 26 of those. Sweet points, Sederberg and Holmstrom with 19 goals. Holmstrom and Schneider both have 8. Brett Lebda and Donnie McLean with 1 each. And let's go to Calgary. Kiprusoff 10-3. Brian Boucher, the only other goalie. But Kipper has been leading. 182 goals against. Holy smokes. This team 11-3. Calgary actually did not have to go to the preliminary round. They qualified. They were one of those 2 teams that got lucky. They took down Boston in 4. They took 3-1. They took Phoenix down in the sweep, and they had troubles with Edmonton. Jerome McGinley has 18 points, Lankow 11, Jose and Monte both with 10. But McGinley's got 13 goals. Lots of people only have 1. I want to look at the summary. Yeah, McGinley's got 13. Second is Ryan Smith with 10. And that's it for 10 goal scorers. Point-wise, Zatsuk has 26. Well, it's biased because Detroit had to go through the preliminary round. Calgary did not. Kiprusoff leads in the goals against at 1-8-2. Markkanen 7-1. Wonder if he lost in the... Well, anyway, the finals, Calgary and Detroit. Canada will see one team move on. Well, Calgary will move on, but what's their number going to be? Will Detroit win that Stanley Cup that they deserved? And it will be Detroit winning 5-2. In Game 1, Osgood beats Kipper. Detroit goes by Datsuk, Cleary, Jason Williams, Jason Williams again, and then Schneider. Calgary goes by Kobusu and Hammerlick. Game 2 sees Calgary 1-0. Kiprusoff beats Legacy. 12:07. Faneuf from Huselius and Lombardi. Wow. So it's 1-1. Game 3 sees Calgary again win 1-0 in overtime. Kiprusoff another shutout. But in overtime, power play, Holmstrom was in the box. Chuck Kobusu, the hero from Lankow. Unbelievable how many minutes Kiprusoff has been without giving up a goal. Game 4 sees Calgary again in overtime. Kiprusoff beats Legacy. Lankow and Donovan scored in the first period. Finally, Detroit scored in the second period. That was like, what? How many periods? 3, 6, and a bit. 7 and change. So over 140 minutes. Calgary shut out Detroit in that final. Shanahan scored to tie it. And then Schneider scored and made it 3-2. But then with the net empty, Sean Donovan scored to tie the game. And then in overtime, again at 12:39, his 14th from Lombardi and Simon. And Calgary looks like they're going to take down Detroit and get something. And they do. Calgary, unfreaking real. The team that didn't have to go through the preliminary round did and sends Detroit to yet another runner-up finish. Kiprusoff has been on fire. 3-2. 3 goals by Calgary. Aguila, Huselius, and Lundmark. Soderberg and Shanahan for Detroit, but that's all of sure. Aguila, despite the fact that they didn't go to the preliminary round, he scored 15 goals. He was the goal-scoring leader, wasn't he? Yep, and Schneider was the only other guy with double digits in there. Well, Ryan Smith. Kiprusoff, 1-4 goals against. Unreal. Unreal. Calgary, Kiprusoff, 14-4. He carried the team. They took care of Boston, Phoenix, Edmonton, and Detroit. They were kind of in trouble against Edmonton, but other than that, they were just clean. Again, led 21 points, 15 goals, despite the fact they didn't have that round. He put up goals like there's no tomorrow. And it's Jerome freaking Aguila. So what do you expect? So anyway, that's all I've got for the 2006 tournament. Great tournament by all. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.